Good afternoon, good evening, whichever time you are, where you're watching from. God bless you. This is Pastor Biola here. On this afternoon, I would like to continue to talk on the importance of fathers in the life of children. I know that we celebrated Father's Day last week, but I just felt in my heart that we still need to do some justice, to the responsibility of a father in the life of the children. And the Bible makes us to understand that fathers are the head of their homes. And that's because that is what we believe in as believers, as Christians. Fathers are the head of the homes, and they are the priests of their own homes. And so, while they are being priests and they are being the head of their homes, they need also to take responsibility as a father in the home. The book of Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 6 says that the glory of a son is their fathers. And so we would see in the Bible that God has laid so much emphasis on the responsibility of a father and how the father is supposed to be the leader in his home, especially spiritually. Joshua said that, as for me and my house, we would serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It takes a man with courage. It takes a man that is fervent, that is standing in the presence of the Lord. It takes a man that is spiritual. It takes a man that knows his duty to tell his family or to say boldly that, as for me and my house, we would serve the Lord. As you know, people have acknowledged fathers last week. They've said a lot of good things about fathers, but I think also we need to share and mention that some fathers are still not living up to the task or up to their responsibility as a father in their homes. And no wonder we have a lot of chaos in our society today. We will see that there is a great need in our day for fathers to live up to their God-given tasks. It is very, very important because we see that when fathers are not living up to their tasks, God-given responsibility, it affects the children, it affects the home, it affects their sons. And so one of the reasons that the church or our community is as weak as it is today, we see that in many places, even in many places, we will see that it's because the fathers, they are not fulfilling their spiritual responsibility. They are not fulfilling their spiritual roles. They are not fulfilling their spiritual duties. And that is why we have so much problems in our community today. And we are expecting that fathers will begin to take up, their responsibility, their duties to their children. And so I'm praying that God will help you. One of the reasons that so many of the youth of our days are involved in drugs, premarital sex, gang activities, and a host of other sinful things is because fathers are not fulfilling their responsibility in their homes. Fathers are not fulfilling, especially, I want to emphasize a little bit here on their spiritual responsibility. We find out that a lot of fathers, they are very good. They take up their responsibility when it comes to, taking their children to games, paying their school fees, doing other activities with them. We'll see that fathers are doing that. That's great. But what about the spirituality? How are they getting involved in the spiritual activities of their children? How are they bringing them up? Because this is something that shapes them. And remember, they need their spiritual life in future, because we all see what is coming up or what is going on in the world. And these children, they need to be soaked. They need to be rooted in spirituality and in their spiritual life. And when fathers are lacking in that area, it affects the children no matter what. And so it is very important that our fathers are that they begin to take up their responsibility in the spiritual area of their lives, so that their children can equally function appropriately. So it is time that, as fathers or our grandfathers, realize the awesome responsibility they have in molding their children's spiritual life. It is time that fathers do more with their children, just so that, they can be a spiritual head in their home in future, so that they can be their spiritual leader in their homes in future, and they will be able to withstand all the fairy darts of the enemy. Look, I tell you, you can't give what you don't have. As a father, if you don't have the spiritual leadership, if you're not a priest, if you're not connected to God, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give it in return to your children. So it is time for fathers to act like spiritual giants in their homes, in their family, so that their children as well can be a better person, can be a better spiritual leader in their community tomorrow. There are so many lessons even to learn in the Bible. And if we need to go into that, we will take forever, to talk about life of other fathers that didn't do well, or the ones that did well in the Bible. I know I've listened to, so many comments and acknowledgement, even about fathers, and also about David, being a great father out there. But, in my own opinion, I feel that King David was a king, but he wasn't a father. Look at the incident of Tamar, his daughter, and with his son. We would see that when I read my Bible, David did not communicate to his children about that incident. He did not talk about it. He did not intervene, as far as I know. I'm going by what I read in the Bible. And so, as fathers, sometimes there are incidents that happen or take place in our home that we need to quickly quench the fire as soon as possible. We need to communicate. But we will see that a lot of fathers, even up to date, they're always silent, and it's like, sort it out yourself. But as the head of the home, you need to intervene on time. You need to guide. You need to counsel before things get out of hand. I remember a story of a family, I think about 10 years back now. It was very serious. It came out in the paper. It was a big tragedy at the time. So I believe they brought the brother-in-law to the family, and every time himself and the wife begin to have arguments, begin to quarrel, and before we know it, things fall apart. Or things fell apart. We find out that they are always arguing, and the husband ignored. If the husband had intervened in time and put everyone in his place, the wife in her place and the brother-in-law in his place, because anyways, it's the wife's home, and you are a stranger that you are coming to live with this couple. And so you need to know where your parameters are, where you need to function, and where you need to, intervene in the home, where your place is in the home. But instead of the husband to intervene, he ignores the wife and the brother-in-law, arguing and quarreling every time. And on this fateful day, This is a very sad story. On this fateful day, the husband saw that both of them were arguing, I think, as usual, and obviously that fateful morning, picked his suitcase and left. And by maybe 30 minutes after he's gotten to work, or 1 hour, I don't know, they called him. The brother-in-law had stabbed the wife. And this matter that I'm telling you, he stabbed the wife to death and he killed himself. If the message I'm passing across here is that if the husband had intervened in time, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So it is very important that fathers take their place and communicate to the family where it is necessary and make his stand known so that he can put his home in order where there is disorder. And so I'm challenging the fathers once again. I want you to know that your responsibility is very important in the home. You are not just an ordinary person in your home. You are the priest of your home. You need to be there spiritually for your children. You need to guide your children spiritually. You need to be close to your children. It's not just a matter of paying school fees and bringing food to the table. No, it's much more than that, because when fathers or parents lack in their responsibility or in their duties to their children, we will find out that this affects the children greatly. A lot of children are looking up to their father because that is the way God has given you so much authority. God has placed authorities in the father's hand. And so when the fathers are lacking in their responsibility and in their especially I'm talking about spiritual responsibility here, then it affects the home. It affects the children. And so I'm employing the fathers today to stand up in their spiritual responsibility, to take their role as a priest in their home, and to take their leadership responsibility and to begin to exercise the authority that God has given them so that their children will not be lacking in the area of spirituality. I pray that God will help you. I'm very passionate about what I'm saying right now because I see a lot of children out there. We would see that because their fathers are not living up to their spiritual tasks and responsibility, children begin to go wayward. Children are disrespecting their society. Children are disrespecting even people. They don't have any, respect for anybody just because their parents, or in particular now I'm talking to fathers, they are not taking their stand. They're not taking their spiritual responsibility. And so it's affecting the life of their children or even their sons because, the girls look up to their mom and in the same manner, the son also look up even to the father. And so it is very important that fathers know their duty and takes their place when it comes to spiritual responsibility so that the children of their sons can have a better tomorrow. Sometimes we just see fathers, they engage in theft, they engage in disagreement, they engage in disobedience, even fathers, because they are disobedient to God. When you are being deceitful, when you are engaging in drugs, you are being disobedient. You are not following the ways of God as well, because the Bible says that even as you are the head of the home, Christ is the head of the father, is the head of the home too. So you have somebody that you answer to as well. So when you are being disobedient, you are not following the ways of God. What do you expect? You now begin to see that your children also operate and function in that manner. And you say, oh, this is not me. But it is you, because you yourself, you are negligent. You are not following the ways of God. You are being disobedient to all the precepts and the doctrines and the responsibility and your responsibility as a father. You are not following biblical principles, and so your children is following after this, and yet you don't see that. And the way they discharge, their own manners in the society, in the community, they're taking after you because you yourself, you're not being responsible. And so I'm employing all fathers out there that are not living up to the task of fatherhood to now take up their responsibility to change their ways so that they can affect their children in a positive manner and in a positive way. I pray that God help you, and I'm going to come back again and talk about this fatherhood and responsibility of a father, because I think it's very important in our society right now. God bless you. God be with you. I'm just being real with you. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.